Thax does, you boy. Eddie
Heads
does.
to the Thunderbolts.
Grace, I know you got tryouts coming up.
Grace's tryouts.
She might be on her phone though. Maybe
Oh,
she can't type.
All right.
That's
Well,
okay.
so, tryouts, I have a tryout coming up as well. So it's something that's, we're all going to face at some point in our careers. Maybe you don't have a tryout this year, but I'm sure in the future, if you plan on trying to further your career, going into junior hockey, college hockey, and hopefully pro hockey, you're going to have tryouts. So we've got a lot of good stuff here to talk to you guys about today. Palms and I have kind of been going over this for, a couple of weeks now, and we've been really excited to share this topic with you guys. So when we break down, looking at tryouts, going through, Palms and I breaking down the things we went through personally in our experiences, and just looking at tryouts as a whole now, there's really two sides of it. I'm sure you guys can guess that's physical and mental. Both are huge parts, and if you can figure out how to master each side of things, you're just going to set yourself up that much better to make that team and get to that next level. So first, Palms, if you want to get into a little bit the mental side of things, I'm a kid, I'm ready to go to tryouts. What are the mental grinds that I'm going to face going into my first training camp?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, TK. And Thax, we're happy to have you on. So thanks for joining us, buddy. It's good to talk to you. And I know that you'll be able to add some very interesting value to this topic. So first thing, guys, all of you I know are going to say yes to this, but I want to ask you anyway. How many of you guys have ever been nervous to see a coach at tryouts? Coach you're trying out for? You guys can raise your hands if you are, right? You got that feeling, I know exactly who this guy is, everything about him, and he has no idea who I am, right? Pretty daunting or intimidating thought to have, right? Going into a team, and the older you guys get, the higher levels you guys play, you guys are going to start playing for coaches they're somebody, right? They've been somewhere. Between me, Dylan, and Kyle, we've all experienced that. We've played with or been coached by guys who are ex-NHLers, or they're, all-time winningest coach at this level. That's why they moved up. It's just like us, right? Coaches move up the same way that we do, but that's off the point. But the first thing I'll say on the mental side, and I'm just going to get right into sort of your first impression of your coach, because I think there's way too much emphasis placed on you guys being nervous for tryouts, right? And you guys being nervous about your coach, and everyone's, what can I do to show my coach, that I'm better? Or, how can I impress my coach? Or it's you're thinking about what you can do for him, or, what are you going to do that's going to make him do something, right? That's the first problem, I think. And it shouldn't be you guys trying to do anything for him. It should be you guys doing you, whatever it is that you do best, right? I don't know what kind of player you guys are. Eddie, I know what kind of player you are. Apparently you're a bit of a nuisance on the ice, we'll say. And Casey, what's going on? Welcome to the show. And so whatever type of player you guys are, right, whatever you do best, just do that to the best of your ability, because that's when you guys play your best, right? Obviously, you guys all have roles. You guys all know what kind of player you are, or maybe if you don't, that's something that you guys can take 5-10 minutes, write down, how do you play, right? What are your most valued assets? What are you best at, right? How can you guys rank yourselves, or how can you guys determine what kind of player you are? But whatever that is, whatever it may be, that's what you need to do to stand out to the coach, right? You don't have to do anything out of the ordinary. So many kids I see, they're like, if I don't score, like, I'm going to get cut, or if I don't, get a shutout, I'm going to get cut, or, if a defenseman is -6, I'm going to get cut, or they don't make an outstanding play. They don't do something actively that is going to show the coach and be like, wow, look at that. It's little things that you do well, repeated over and over and over and over again, because that shows that coach that you're consistent and you're not playing outside of yourself. 95% of the time, if you see a player do something that makes the coach go, wow, and he has to think about, who is that? chances are you're probably not doing something that you would normally do. Not to say that's a bad thing, right? But that's probably not what they had on your radar. But if you do something you're good at, if we're, me and Thax are defensemen, we're good at making the first pass. If you make that first pass on the tape 100 times over camp, they're going to notice that, and they're going to know, okay, this guy, first pass defenseman, automatic. It's fast. We're getting out of the zone every single time, right? So it's just the first part about nervousness about the scouts or the coaches or your parents if they're watching or the other players. Biggest thing, guys, is just focus on you, right? Focus on what you do best and what's going to make, where do you play your best? How do you play your best game? What does that look like for you going through a game? What things do you do consistently? What things do you do well? How does it feel when that game was over and you guys know, hey, that was a really good game I just played, right? Think about those things. So DK, I'll let you get into maybe more a little bit of the mental prep side, because that's kind of more your area of focus. But yeah, guys, biggest thing, focus on you. Don't focus on the coach. Don't focus on other players, coaches, scouts, trainers, parents, whoever. Focus on you.
Thanks, man. So I think something to note there, what Tyler just said was, okay, so we started with a question, right, that we ask ourselves. What can I do to impress the coach or, a scout? Because some of you guys might be going into some showcases where you're just going to a showcase to be seen by a ton of coaches. And, that can be intimidating as well. But, it starts with a question, a you question. Like, what can I do to make you happy, right? But his response to that came back to a you question or a you answer. So why ask yourself something about someone else when the answer really just comes down to what you yourself is going to do? So don't make it, okay, what can I do to impress this coach? Like Palm said, what can I do to play my best? What can I do to stand out? And like he said, it just goes back to doing what you do best. And, I think another thing to touch on is other players. I think even more so than coaches, it's super easy to come into a camp and compare yourself to other players. We all go to camp and names, right? Hockey world's a small world. So whether you're a name that is known or not, you're going to know, someone at that camp that is being talked about, and you're going to know who he is on the ice, and you're going to be, you're going to catch yourself in awe of that guy. Like it's if you haven't been there before, it's easy. It's so easy to do, to be like, oh man, like this guy's got the buzz around him, but like you've never seen him play. So I think, again, it goes back to that same answer. Don't even worry about what that guy's doing. That guy's doing what he does best. Good for that guy. Like he's giving himself the best opportunity to make the team because he's doing what he does best. That happens to be getting talked about at this camp. Great. Good for that guy. I need to do what I do best, and I need to do it all camp long. That way, by the end of camp, they're talking about that guy and me. So, I mean, it all ties together, just like, what Tyler said. Don't try and do too much to impress a coach. Don't try and, step away from your game because there's other guys there who might be more skilled than you, who might be faster than you or whatever. But you need to remember, when those thoughts creep in, one, you need to remember why you're there. You need to remember you're there too, like you're in the same boat. That guy could very well be looking at you and being like, oh, damn, oh man. Like, you know what I mean? You don't know. So kind of keep a level head that way. And it goes back to, again, one of the questions that Palms had come in is, how do I prepare for nervousness going into training camp? Well, you can't, I will tell you right now, you can't prepare for nervousness at training camp in training camp. Like it doesn't start there. You prepare for that now. You should have already been preparing for that nervousness. That's not to scare you, but that's how you fight it. You fight that nervousness by what you do now and the work you put in. And when that nervousness comes in, you can be like, well, you know what? I busted my butt this summer. I worked out 4 days a week. When I could, I skated 3 days a week. I was stuck inside at quarantine, but I was working on my mobility. I was stick handling. I was doing the things I could do to get better. And so then you're like, oh, okay, you remind yourself of those things, and then you got that confidence back. So that's how you compete with that. And if you guys haven't listened to my vlog that I just posted, I recommend it. I go into reflecting. So, something I use that I recommend you use as well to deal with that nervousness is reflection. When thinking back on your training that you put in this summer, that's reflection. That's reflecting on something good that you did that made you feel good, that you felt good, and you're reflecting back on, what it felt like, the temperature out, where were you, was the sun out, what you were wearing, what you were feeling, all those little things. Try and remember as many details as you can about those moments, and that'll bring back that warm and fuzzy feeling that we're all looking for. And then you go out there and kill it, man. You do what you got to do. But so that's my take on the mental side. Please drop some questions or comments if you guys have any. We'll try and get to those if we can, but not if we can. We will get to those later on towards the end of the show. But next we've got, the physical side. So
DK, I just wanted to touch on something quickly that maybe Thax can speak to.
Yeah, I got a comment after for sure.
Thax, you skated with the Marlies, correct, last summer?
Yeah, I went to the Marlies camp, yeah.
Right, okay, so that's a perfect example. So, guys, I'm just going to take an extrapolated example where DK's talking about you guys have time right now to prepare, right? You guys have time to mentally prepare for that nervousness and stuff like that. Now, that's not always going to be the case, and I think all the points that DK touched on still apply, which is why I wanted to bring it up, is, sometimes you get an opportunity to go somewhere that maybe 2 days ago or 3 days ago you never thought was possible, right? Or you guys didn't think was going to happen, or you guys just weren't expecting, right? Stuff comes up in the hockey world. That's a beautiful part of what our game is. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to give you a shot that you didn't think you deserved yourself, and that's in pro hockey too, and these two guys can speak to it. We've probably all had that moment where we're like, really? Me? Like, really? Right? And it comes up out of nowhere. Like just a brief example for myself, when I decided to retire and I was, one day from deciding to do it, like I got contacted by an ECHL team. They were like, hey, I want to sign you and we're going to bring you to our AHL camp. And it was like, what? What do you mean? Right? But had I, decided to keep playing, like that's something that would have come up out of the blue that I was like, there's no way that I'll ever be doing that, ever. No way. Right? And then, maybe that's just because, the shock and awe and, not to devalue yourself or say that you wouldn't ever be there, but, something that you guys weren't expecting. So I'll let Dax, if you just want to touch on, how it was, how you found out, what was going through your head, and then just kind of how you, mentally got prepared for that camp with the Marlies.
Yeah, for sure. No, like what you guys have said already, 100% is 100% true. Like obviously nerves are a big thing, but like if you have the mental preparation and you're preparing all summer by putting in the work and everything, then you're gonna be ready for that opportunity, right? So basically, how it came for me was I got offered to sign a contract with the Newfoundland Growlers of the East Coast Hockey League. And then they said to me as well, you sign with us, and then we'll bring you to the Marlies camp and get to go to AHL camp. And like a year before that, if you told me I was going to be at an AHL camp coming out of like a Division III college, I would have said no way, like no chance. But I felt I was ready, and obviously nerves are the thing for sure. Like don't be afraid to be nervous, because nervous is normal. Like being nervous is normal, and it's going to come. So it's just when you're prepared and you expect them to come, then you're going to be able to overcome those nerves and like these guys said, just do you and do the best thing that you do on the ice, and just keep doing that over and over and over, right? So like don't be afraid even when you get to the camp. If you make a mistake, or don't be afraid, like, because mistakes happen and they're going to happen. So you just got to be able to use that mental preparation and all that other stuff that you've done in the summer, and it's going to make you have the best shot that you can possibly have, and you'll know at the end, no matter what happens, that you're prepared and you tried your best, right? So, and another thing is you can't really control what other people do, right? You got to focus on yourself and just control what you do, because that's all you can do at the end of the day. So yeah, so just my biggest thing is nerves is normal, so just don't be afraid of them, and go at them head first. So
100%.
Awesome. Yep.
Try don't try and push them away. Learn how to bathe in them, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
gotta soak 'em up.
Exactly.
That just means you care. Nerves means you care, and there's nothing wrong with caring. And then last thing I'm gonna add is, like Thack said, bad plays, bad goals are gonna happen. It says more about you as a player what you do after that than the actual mistake itself. If you are a D and you throw a pizza to the middle for a goal against, and then you come out your next shift and lay somebody out, and then get the puck out, right away, first pass out, and then you go down and you create a scoring chance, he's gonna be like, dang, like, all right, that guy's mentally tough. That guy just made an awful play, and then we put him right back out there because in a training camp you probably have 4D on a bench maybe. So you're going right back out there. Like you're gonna get another shot, and you go out there and make a very nice play, have a solid shift, and you're like, all right, like this kid's got game because that's a kid we can work with because he's strong between the ears. So and last thing is just choose love over fear. I was talking to Palms about this. Choose your love for the game and your love to play hockey over the fear of, result, failure, heartbreak. Hockey's going to break your heart sometime, guys. Like it's going to happen, but how you respond, it's going to be that much better in the long run. So everything happens for a reason. But Palms, go ahead and get started.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was awesome. I think you guys did a really good job of summing that up there. So next, guys, we're going to talk now about the physical side of tryouts, right? What to expect, what you guys can expect leading up, kind of what you guys should be focusing on leading up. And then I'll let DK go through a little bit more of during camp and tryouts or whatnot to expect kind of as we move along the process. So the first thing prior I wanted to talk about is obviously my field of expertise, strength and conditioning, strength training, sport-specific training for hockey players, getting them in the best game-ready shape that they can be come camp. And that's very important why I say game-ready, because I'm sure you guys all know, and I know, Grace, you'll know from this year, right? Our first skate or your guys' first skate at tryouts or it's camp or wherever you guys are, you get on the ice and you could have been riding your bike all summer and wakeboarding or skateboarding or playing road hockey with your friends or doing whatever, being active, going for runs, right? And you could step on the ice and you will feel like you have sat on a couch for 11 months and not gotten up. And I know Thax and DK, we can all talk to that in hockey even after doing this. So I can't stress this enough, guys. Your mental preparation has to mimic your game output. I will say that again. Your physical preparation has to mimic your game output. Okay? So the reason why in our strength and conditioning programs, we do something called periodization. Okay? And DK knows this too. His mobility has periodization. It's all about a principle of progressive overload, but then we take that principle and we apply it sport specifically. So, if you look at the best qualities about the best players in the NHL right now and what they do, some action words that come to mind: the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, the quickest, the smartest. Okay? Take being smart out. Obviously, that's a mental thing. Okay? Bigger, stronger, faster, quicker. How do we train to be bigger, stronger, faster, quicker? Right? How do we do that? Do we do, one movement every day that's one of those qualities each focus? No. Your body needs time to learn how to move in those specific outputs or specific motions or movement patterns or time or whatever it may be. Your body needs time. So what we do, and DK can speak to this as well. In fact, I'm sure, we're not just doing blind stuff. There's a method to our madness, and every NHL player will tell you this. Every professional hockey player will tell you this. A lot of college players will tell you this, major, junior, everyone who's at the upper echelon of their sport or their age group or their level will tell you that when you're training, it has to feel like you're in a game. Right? Now, there's reasons that we move through phases, right? Your first phase, you're conditioning. Once you come off a season, you're just so depleted of all your, your muscle stores and everything in your body that's helping you recover. We need to recondition your body to be ready to perform, right? Then we build into our muscle building phase or hypertrophy or putting on some size, right? Functional mass we want to put on. Then we condition that. So we build the strength on this new tissue. Then we mobilize it. We make it quicker. We make it faster. We make it stronger. We make it not tire out as quick. We go through all these stages, right? And that's, I'm kind of getting a little bit off topic, but that's something we can go into later. But just knowing physically, like DK said with mentally, like you're going to know when you're ready. You're going to know, okay, like I did what I needed to do this summer to be ready physically. I feel ready physically. Okay. So, DK, I don't know if you just want to touch on maybe the physical journey just to build onto that. And then I can kind of talk about more so like we can talk about the outline of camp or what to expect physically in terms of time, duration, stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah. So during camp, I guess my part kind of ties into like, what you're going to actually be doing at camp. But your camp it's going to be overloaded for sure. You're probably going to have a camp that's maybe 3 to 4, maybe 5 days, depending on the camp. Or if you're younger, you might have a tryout that is maybe just 2 or 3 days. But you're probably going to have some sort of like off-ice testing, which could vary from, again, probably covering all of those aspects that Palms just talked about: speed training, strength training. So they might do, we might not, if you're an older kid going into junior, they might have you do a bench press test, but if you're younger, it might just be like a 1 minute push-up test. How many push-ups can you do in 1 minute? Testing your strength, your muscular endurance, all that good stuff. But that being said, that's kind of after this part, but you're gonna have a lot thrown at you. So that's why it's important that you're conditioned going into camp way ahead of time. So that really tough week, you can handle it, and by the last day, you're still strong. You'll see kids at camp who start out really strong, and then towards the end of camp, you can tell they didn't put in the work, and their last game is crap, and that shows. Coaches see that stuff. So that's why your off-season training is so important, and it's so important to make it sport specific, because if you're a forward running, if you're a runner and you run 4 miles all the time and you love running long distance, yes, your endurance is going to be through the roof, but hockey is one of those weird sports that it is endurance based in the sense that we play a 60-minute game, but you're doing 60 minutes of 30-second sprints on and off. Or if you're a D, it might be 45 to maybe a minute if you get stuck out there, probably, right? Minute 10 maybe ish. So it's different. It's not like running 4 miles where you're just one pace. You don't play a hockey game like that. So that's why sport specific is so important. But I would say you need to give yourself a mistake I always made going into training camps was training too hard, too close to camp. So I was the kind of guy who I still am. I fight it to this day. Right up to camp. I'm going to bust my ass right up until camp. And realistically, like I just said, you've got a lot to do this next week. You've got 4+ games. You have 3 to 6 ice sessions and maybe 1 to 2 workouts. So you shouldn't be training right up until camp. That last week should be very clear. You should do no workouts, no strength training, no weights. If you want to get some sort of workout in, then do a quick little body weight workout during the week just to stay loose and stay engaged. Like I'm someone like that. So I would say if you were, sitting at home and you're like, I got to work out, then just do a body weight. Don't touch weights. Keep your skates and keep your cardio up, but don't be bagging yourselves with sprints and stuff. You should have been doing sprints for the last month, 2 months. You don't need to do sprints the last week of your training camp or the last week before training camp. If you're someone who is like, I have to do my sprint workout or my 2 sprint workouts this last week, then you weren't training hard enough or soon enough. So that last week should pretty much be like a mini vacation. You stay on the ice, no workouts. You're just staying on the ice, keeping your feel for the puck. And hopefully you have, let's say 2, maybe 3 skating sessions. If you have 3, I would maybe even push it back to only 2 that last week. And, by that second skate, you haven't worked out for 3-4 days and you're feeling stronger than ever and you're flying on the ice, and that last skate before camp, you're feeling the best you've ever felt. So not, damn, I did legs yesterday and I'm kind of tight, or my workout was tough, so I'm stiff. Like that last skate, we want to be feeling 100%, and then going into camp at 100%, not tired, ready to rock and roll. So, and again, I think it's important with off-season training to take those breaks too, throughout your off-season training. Like, don't just beat the brakes or beat the wheels off yourself for 3-4 months straight. Like, take a week off here and there, a little vacation, and just if you have skates, if you're skating, then skate. But take a week off from workouts. There's nothing wrong with that. Rest is your secret weapon. And that being said, during camp, the way to deal with all this extra workload that you're going to be dealing with is mobility training. I could talk to you guys for hours about mobility, but check out my social medias. There's lots of stuff there. But simple mobility exercises to keep everything loose. Foam rolling's great. There's a lot of debate with icing right now and cold baths. I like them. It does help with some inflammation. That's kind of the debate right now is, does it, doesn't it? So I think it does, but I can see in times where it doesn't. I think it is more of a regenerative thing. After a game, it's like I hop in that cold tub and it just kind of really helps shock my body quick. And I just enjoy it. And it does help with pain. Like, we know icing helps with pain. So, cold tubbing here or there, but again, you're doing a lot and you're probably going to be, ending the night late and starting it early. So if it's something like that, maybe ice bathing isn't the best because we don't want to wake up stiff. But foam rolling, light mobility, if you have access to it, like a stationary bike, go on a little bike, do a little dynamic warm up here and there, cool downs after. And yeah.
Awesome. No, that's great. And I just wanted to, you brought up some thoughts there too quickly. Just talking about not overloading it and making sure that your body's getting that proper, recovery and rest while you can, because like you said, that first week, we all know it just feels like it's nonstop. It's like you're on the ice, you're off the ice, you're in the workout, you're off the workout, you're skating here, you're doing this, like testing here, going to do this, and it's nonstop for the first 4 or 5 days. And I know, like, up here in Canada, I'll speak for Eddie and Grace, like sometimes your tryouts, you guys go 3-4 days out of the week, but you go for a month because you guys have preseason tournaments and 2 skates this week and all this, right? And everything, and it drags on and on and on. And that's even more important for you guys to make sure that when you can, you're getting that proper rest and recovery. Thax, is there anything that you wanted to touch on you can think of, like how you maybe share just quickly how you physically prep for your camps, maybe going like a month out? Like what are you kind of looking at? What are you doing?
Definitely.
What's your preparation like?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, like you said, you guys said the sport specific training is very important. Obviously, I think everybody knows the summer months is where like you put in the most work, and it's most important work, because if you don't put the training in the summer, then you're not going to be ready for the season, right? So something that I kind of focus on is like DK said, he said that you're on the ice for 30 seconds and then you're on the bench for like say a minute. So one thing I like to do to kind of correlate with that is like I'll sprint or do like shuttle runs for 30 seconds, and then I think the most important thing is the work to rest ratio. So you got to train the way that you're going to be on the ice. So like I said, I do sprint say for 30 seconds, and then I'll rest for a minute. So you kind of get that same kind of, so your body's trained into that motion, right, of working for 30 and then resting for a minute, or working for 45, resting for a minute and a half, right? So my biggest thing, I do a lot of sprints, and I do a lot of shuttle runs and a lot of isolation, like single leg isolation, and I think it's a big factor, right? Because you want to work on those individual muscles. And another big thing that I've gotten into later in my career is where what DK is a special at is the mobility part, because that first week is 100% it's a grind, right? So if you're not doing those mobility or like the stretches or hip mobility and stuff like that, you're going to go in that first week and your body's going to feel terrible. But if you add the mobility with your training programs, your body's going to be feeling in great shape, and you're going to go into that first week and you're going to be like, hey, this is not as, maybe it's not as big of a grind as it is. when people don't do this stuff. But mobility for me, mobility is a big thing later in my career, and it's definitely added some years here to the end of my career because we're getting a little bit older, obviously, and the muscles and joints don't work the way they might work for you guys right now. So if you start now at this age, you guys, when you get to our age now, you guys should have no problem. So
yeah, quick rant. Thax makes a great point. If you guys start now, so let me give you a quick rundown of the way the body works. You guys are lucky because a lot of you guys are younger. So you're probably pretty mobile right now because you're younger. You haven't put wear and tear on your body yet. And when you're born mobile. When you're a baby, your bones are cartilage. So, and then they turn to bone because in the womb, there's no gravity. So it doesn't need bone. It doesn't need bone to stabilize anything because it doesn't have any weight bearing. And then you're born and gravity hits and your body's just like, oh crap, like I need bone. So it produces bone. And you take a baby. I don't recommend doing this, but you take a baby and you can pull its legs apart and it can do the splits, no problem. You pull its legs apart and the baby can sit in the splits and it'll just look at you like you're not doing anything. I recommend having a trained professional, aka a mom, of said baby to do that if they're willing. But it's true. And if you take someone who has always done the splits, so like let's just probably a gymnast or like someone who did gymnastics, whatever. And what can they do when they're 90? They can do the splits. Why? Because they've always done it. If you always do something, you're going to always be able to do it. Like that's the way the body is. If you stop doing something, your body over time forgets how to do that thing, which is why as people age and don't take care of their bodies, they aren't able to do certain things. Or, if let's say we start doing, let's use skateboarding. You might be able to do a trick one time, but if you don't skateboard for a month, let's say you're really good at kickflipping and then you stop skating for a month, you might not be able to do a kickflip anymore. Like I know I was like that. So like, it's weird analogy there, but that's how it works. If you don't move in a certain way, your body will forget how to move that way. So you guys, getting to my point now, you guys being young, your mobility is probably still pretty good. For most of you, like you're probably not too terrible in the mobility category. So start doing that stuff now. Check out my free stuff. I have tons of free exercise. Start doing that stuff now, and you can continue to improve it back to the ranges you had when you were a baby, because you're closer to being a baby than I am. And I didn't learn about mobility until I was already in college and graduating college. And now I'm like, thank you. I can play hockey for hopefully a couple more years, five more years pro now, because I'm a mobility specialist and my body is feeling better than it was in college. So, not to like plug myself, but you guys have an advantage knowing about this stuff at a younger age. So, and just training as a whole, fitness side of it as well, not just mobility training. It's all evolved so much and it's constantly evolving. So you guys just have so many more resources and tools available to you that you should just really make sure you take advantage of those to help you. And that's what's going to ultimately give you the confidence physically and mentally to kill your tryouts.
Super well said, DK. That was awesome. I guess just we have a couple questions to get to and then a couple stories.
Heck yeah.
So DK, you answered my first question I had. That was the how do you prepare to not be nervous? Sorry, before tryouts. We covered that in depth. Don't be nervous. Be you. If you are feeling a little bit nervous, that's normal. Just don't let that eat at you. We talked a little bit about that and how to make sure that your nervousness is not a weapon against you. It can be a weapon for you. And I'll get into my second question here. This is a really good one. This actually kind of ties into what you said as well, DK. How do you get the coach you're trying out for to notice you? Well, that goes hand in hand to what we talked about right after, right? If you're trying to get him to notice you, you're probably not doing the right things. Play your game, play to your strengths, do what you guys need to do. You guys know what kind of players you are. Don't step outside of your boundaries, what you can do, because If it goes the wrong way and you don't do that, trying to do it, that looks a lot worse than if you do one simple thing really well 100 times or 20 times or 10 times, right? So we kind of covered that. DK, I'll let you get into your questions if you want.
Yeah, I had an email. Someone reached out asking, I'm trying to play at a high level of junior, trying to make the jump from a league I was in this year. Hopefully going to play college hockey and would like to keep the dream alive and play pro. How do I do that? So obviously everything we just talked about ties into that. That's kind of a pretty loaded question. But obviously training, being the hardest worker on your team. Everybody works hard nowadays, guys. I hate to break it to you, but like back when, like me, I would not be playing pro hockey right now if it wasn't for my work ethic. I am an extremely good athlete, I will say that, but I started goalie late. So, and there's a lot of good goalies, you know, in my age group as 94 at that time. So if it wasn't for me being such a hard work ethic, no way I would have caught a lot of those guys. No way I'd be playing. So work ethic. If you don't have a work ethic now, find it. Develop it now. Starts now. And that is going to be what you live with. That's going to give you your best opportunity. Once you get that reputation of being a hard worker, it's hard to say bad things about you. 2, connecting with that. So I think goals. We're going to do our next episode. I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead, but our next episode next week is going to be about goal setting. But I think that is definitely an answer for this question. You need a method to your madness. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to work really, really hard this summer. You need a program, whether it's buying one or making one. You need a method to your madness. And you need to have, you know, it's when you do homework, you have homework for a reason in school, right? They don't just say, here's all the stuff you got to learn and go learn it. There's an order, there's structure. Your training needs to have the same thing. So by doing that, I think another thing to hold that structure accountable is goal setting. And I can show you my board right here. I have goals. I have summer goals, monthly goals, and weekly goals. So these goals need to be challenging, but they need to be attainable. They need to be realistic. So, you know, my summer goals, my summer long goals, those are some pretty tough goals. Like, and they should be, but they're obtainable. If I work really hard and have a really good summer, like I know I can do all these things, all 5 of these things. Your monthly goals, those need to be challenging as well, but it needs to be something you need to be doing now. Remember that. Weekly goal is just simple things that you know that you can hold yourself, you're going to hold yourself accountable for the week, and you know you're going to be able to do them. Whether it's I'm going to get 3 workouts in and a sprint session in and a mobility session in this week. You can hold yourself accountable to that. Or I'm going to read, and start small if you want for your first week. Again, they're weekly. You're going to come up with new ones next week. So I'm going to read a chapter of a book this week. Okay, great. Next week, maybe it's 2. So I think goals are huge. And we're going to go dive, way deeper into that next week. So definitely check that out and stay tuned for that. Palms, they can just use this link, right?
Correct. Link will stay the same going forward.
So you guys are already in the right spot. But yeah, so just to keep that dream alive too, I think the biggest thing is don't get so caught up on the goals. Don't get so caught up on the end result because it lasts a second. Yes, success it's great to be hungry for success. You need to be hungry for success. But if everything you're doing is only because you're caught up on that hunger for that success, for that, championship, let's say, or that game-winning goal or whatever, it literally lasts 5 seconds maybe. The process is a hell of a lot longer. So have goals, dream about that success, but be focused on and fall in love with the process side of it, because that is what gets you to that success. Not thinking about the success and just doing all this other stuff. It's being totally engaged and indulged in that stuff, that process, that stuff that gets you to that ultimate goal. And then you get there, and then it's even better because you're like, oh my goodness. Then you can look back and you truly appreciate and you truly know everything you went through. And then you know what it takes to be a winner. So fall in love with the process. I'm sure you've all heard it 100 times, but I think we've touched on a lot of great ways to kind of fall in love with that process and organize that process. So that being said, Thax, you got anything to add before we get into some stories?
Yeah, just when it comes to work ethic, obviously, I think that's the biggest asset any hockey player can have, because like I'm sure everybody's heard it, you can't teach work ethic, right? So an example maybe would be me and Palms, we're both defensemen, we're in the same tryout camp, and maybe Palms might be maybe the more offensive guy or the more better player, but I have the better work ethic. I think 9 out of 10 times the coach is going to see that and they're going to be like, okay, I'll take the guy with the work ethic and we can teach him to be a better player. We can teach him the skills that he needs to get to be a better player, right? So I think if you guys can start now at your age now and get that mentality of, okay, got to be the hardest working guy on the ice every time I step on the ice, and then I think you'll have unlimited success if you have that great high work ethic. And then one thing about goals keep you accountable, right? So it's like DK kind of touched on as well. It's like goals give you something to look forward to. So it's like, okay, this week I want to do this, this, and this, because my goal is to make the team or whatever camp you're going to. You want to make that team, right? So, and then if you don't meet those little goals that lead up to it, then you're not holding yourself accountable, and you're not gonna have the end result that you want. So having goals is a great thing, and it keeps you on the right path, and it's gonna allow you to get there and be better. So goals is a great thing. Great point.
I just want to add one thing quick, DK, that I think we maybe glanced over, but it builds off of both you guys said. One of the most important qualities that you guys can have as hockey players is coachability. And you will hear every single, Thax, Kyle's brother is a scout for the Arizona Coyotes, right? And you ask him, what's the little plug? And you ask him, I go to Kevin, what's the number one thing that NHL coaches are looking for? And it's not the guy that has the hardest shot, the smoothest hands, the best vision, best hockey IQ. It's all of those plus being coachable, 100%. Being receptive to feedback, right? If we can all attest to this, and I'm sure you guys can too, the crazy hockey coach that's screaming at you to do something down the bench or screaming that you didn't do something. That, for me, to get over that when I was younger, like that, I don't want to say that solely got me to where I am, but it wasn't my hands, that's for sure. So, think about.
I can attest to that for sure.
Like, guys, like there's guys in the NHL making millions and millions of dollars to make one pass out of their zone at the NHL level. They're not getting paid to go up and down the ice, score goals and this and that. So it's just, if the coach gives you feedback, whether it's positive or negative, take it. If it's positive, great. Keep doing it. If it's negative, okay, I'm going to fix it. Again, that self-reflection, that mental toughness to not crumble if you make a mistake. And the coach, that's got to be like the number one nightmare from kids. Like, oh, if I screw up, like my dad's going to yell, or my dad's going to be mad at me, or my coach is going to yell at me. And it should never be that way. That's just the reality of somehow people in the hockey world are, and some parents are. I dealt with it when I was younger. I'm sure you guys did too. It's just how it is, but it's how you take that feedback. Being coachable is doing the little things really, really good all the time. And that's like as simple as like being on time, right? Being on time. That's like a number one thing that every coach has in their rule book. Be on time. Don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. Be on time, right? If you're on time, you're late. Be there early, always, right? I forget what's the saying. How does that saying go? What's the quote?
If you're 5 minutes early or late or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're on time, you're late. If you're I could have hammered that. If you're 5 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's the quote. That's what I'm trying to get at. But you guys understand what I'm saying.
It was the first attempt, though.
Just doing little things like that. But having one of the biggest things that I was always told, and I never really understood it when I was young, but having manners. If your coach comes up to you and says, hey, what's your name? Really nice to meet you. Like, I'm going to be, I'm your coach. Like, I'm who you're trying out for. And like, some kids are like, oh yeah, what's up, dude? Kicking it tight, sweet. Like,
yeah, dude, that last skate was fire, bro. Fire, bro. Coach, that was fire.
So like, one of the things, and I got this from an old trainer of mine, he always told me the first day of camp, no matter where you are or what you're doing, go up and find your coach and shake his hand, look him in the eye, and introduce yourself. Hey, my name's Tyler Palmer. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. If there's anything that I can do, to stand out, or if you notice anything that I need to work on, like, please let me know. I'm really excited again for this opportunity. Thank you. Boom. 20 seconds. But now that guy's like, holy cow, like, that kid just walked up to me and introduced himself. Like, I'm okay, cool. Like, I'm going to watch that kid. I'm going to give him feedback if I see anything. That will like blow 95% of coaches. That will blow their mind. They'll be like, wow.
Every coach will definitely remember that if you do that. 100%.
1,000,000%, because no one does. No one does that.
Yeah.
And especially now, and I hate to say it, and this is where our two generations, all of us on here right now, we're considered millennials, but where you guys are different from us. And I got that younger, so I'm going to say that you guys have never even thought about that. We are so in our own little box, and just we don't want to, make too much noise, or we don't want to, we're nervous or shy, and that's fine. But think about it, guys. Like, you're going up to someone who you might be seeing every day for the next 365 days. You're going to talk to this person. You're going to get to know them. It's not going to be awkward. You're not going to feel uncomfortable.
And the
But
sooner
if you're that,
yeah, sorry, go on.
go ahead. No, go ahead, DK.
The sooner you can get to know them, the better. Think of, any of you guys watch The Bachelor? The ones that usually stick around or get the first rose out of the 100 girls or guys that the person meets is the one that makes some sort of like connection with them first, whether it's a joke or just something to get you to stick in their mind. And if you go to a camp and maybe you're not as comfortable saying, oh, I'm really excited for this, please give me feedback, blah, blah, blah. If you're not okay with saying that, that's fine. Hey, coach, I'm Dylan Kelly. Thanks for inviting me here. If he asks you a question, you answer it. If not, hey, nice to meet you, Dylan Kelly. Like, thanks. Good luck out there. I'll see you out there. Thanks, coach. Bang, off to the locker room. And this guy's like, holy crap. Okay, Dylan Kelly. You made him say your name. He heard your name, and you made him say your name before you even stepped foot on the ice and he looked at the roster to be like, oh, okay, it's Dylan Kelly. You already knew that. So, Palms, I think that was a great point, but sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good. You pretty much just wrapped up what I wanted to say. But again, just being a good person, being coachable, working hard, taking feedback well, whether it be negative or positive. You guys do those things, you'll be absolutely fine. With that being said, I guess we can move into we'll wrap up. We got about 10 minutes left here. We can get into a couple quick stories regarding camps or tryouts that we've had, and hopefully leave you guys off with a little bit of a laugh here.
Right on. Let's see. I've got one. I think so. I guess one of the funnier points for me, I get being a goalie at training camps going into junior, coming from up north. I never played AAA or anything like that. So like when I first got into like junior hockey, I didn't even know what it was. Like I was playing junior hockey and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I was not living at home anymore and I was going to a new high school. And I was playing on a new team with a bunch of random kids. That was supposed to be better hockey. And I was playing in the NA3 at the time. That was before there was like 500 teams in the league. But the first thing I noticed going to training camps was the fights. I thought it was, being a goalie, I thought it was the funniest thing because sometimes at these training camps you'll have like either players on the team or local kids, whatever, running the benches. So the actual coaches and scouts can be up in the stands, and you'll have kids like, you know, setting up fights and stuff like that. And you'll probably go to camps where there's kids who can't play and they're only there to fight. And that's how they're going to make, you know, that's how the coach is going to learn their name rather than them going up and introducing themselves to the coach. They're going to go out there and fight, which I think fighting's, I don't have a problem with fighting. If you're someone who can fight, by all means, go out there and fight. It's only going to add to your stock at the end of the day. But be smart about it. Don't be dumb. Nobody likes a jerk out there, and there's a fine line. Fight, stick up for your teammate, but don't be dumb. There's no room for ignorance in hockey anymore now, especially with them tightening up those rules. But I just thought that was kind of just something funny, just being on the bench and then looking over, and the coach on the bench was like, "Hey, you got to go fight that kid," or like, "Go fight that kid. That kid wants to fight. Who's going to fight him?" And then some kid's just like, "I will." And he's like, "Okay, go." And then sure enough, next whistle, the kid just lines up next to him and just like, off. But yeah, it's mine.
That's awesome. Thax, you got a good camp story for us?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm trying to remember, but I think it was the first time I went to East Coast camp. I think it was like one of the first couple drills, and I mean, obviously I was nervous, like you talked about earlier in this thing, and like nerves are a thing. But I actually tripped over my own feet, kind of like during one of the first drills, and like ate shit on the ice, and no one's laughing, but it's just like I get in my own head, I'm like, oh damn, like that's not a good start, blah blah blah. But it's like anything like that can happen, like just don't let something like that like ruin the camp for you, right? Like no one's gonna 5 minutes later, no one even remember what happened, right? So
true.
Just it's just anything like that can happen, and you just gotta forget about it and keep moving forward. So I mean that's kind of really the only funny kind of camp story I have, but.
No, that's a good one. I got one too as well. The first East Coast League camp, and this, keep in mind, like I hadn't played competitive hockey for a year and a half. I broke my hand, so I was like so far removed from just like a regular like tryout process or like a regular game day. Like what are you gonna do when you get to the rink and stuff like this? And so I remember I got down like 4 or 5 days early, and there was just like captain skates going on. Right. And they put all of, all the young guys or all the rookies live in this one house, and the rest of the team lives in these apartments. So I remember going to the house the night before and meeting a few of these guys, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we have a skate in the morning. Like it's this time or whatever." And I had been driving for 5 days, and like I had gotten in at 3:30 in the morning, and like had to be up at like 8 or whatever, because the rink was like 35 minutes away. And like the kid that was there, he's like, "Yeah, you want me to wake you up in the morning? Like we can ride together?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'll be good. Like I'll get up. Like, I have to go do some stuff after, whatever. I'll just drive myself." So go to bed, and I wake up, and our skate was at 10 a.m. And I wake up, and my clock says 9:17. I'm already like into like the 43-minute window, first pro camp skate. Like these guys have probably been there for an hour. They've had breakfast, they've stretched, they've done all this. Like these guys, and I'm like, oh my God. And the drive to the rink is like 35 minutes. So I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, if I leave this house in 1 minute and I'm still laying in bed, like I'm going to get there 5 minutes before I go on the ice. And I'm like, should I just not go? Like I told him I was going to get in like late last night, like, or maybe I had a travel, mishap or whatever. And I just didn't get in until after the skate. I'll text the coach in like an hour. Like, hey, I got caught in traffic, like coming into the city or whatever. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like panicking in my own head. Like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So I got up, I got dressed, and I'm driving to the rink, and I'm walking in, and I walk in the doors, and there's like coach's office, trainer, equipment manager, cubbies, locker, everything that I have to do first before I get into the actual room is right in front of all the staff. And I open this door, and I'm walking in with my bag. I'm like, there's people like kind of buzzing around me, like no one's saying anything. And the coach walks out of his office and he goes, "Hey." Hey. He goes, "Who are you?" I go, "Tyler Palmer, nice to meet you. Yeah, I got in late last night, so I had a little bit of a sleep and almost." And he looked at me and he said, "But you made it." Turned around, walked right back in his office, and I was just like, Equipment manager like walks out. He's like, "Hey, can I take your stuff, man?" Yeah, he's like, I'll set your stall up, whatever, get warmed up. And I'm like zombie arm, like, here you go, like heart pounding into my chest. But it was just, I'll never forget. Like that was like the definition of being nervous, like shaking, being like, I'm gonna get cut before the first real skate. Half the team's not even here yet, and I'm getting sent home. And he said that, he's like, "Cool, have a good skate." Just like my whole body just like melted in the ground for a second, and I was like, good Lord. But yeah, that was one thing I'll never forget. So if that ever happens to you guys, 9 out of 10 times if the coach, and especially this was like an informal skate, but still obviously I want to make an impression. It's not a big deal. That happens all the time. I've heard stories of NHL guys sleeping in for Stanley Cup games, or Drew Doughty slept in for the gold medal game at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Walked into the room like it wasn't anything. Hey, what's up, guys? Oh, you guys can go ahead. Yeah, you guys. Do you have anything else, DK?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just making.
No, I was just wrapping up the story. That's all I had. But yeah, anything.
Yeah, I've got one more. Sorry.
Sure.
Me off, man. I'm really good at that tonight. Yeah, I've got one more. It's a quick one. It kind of goes back to what you said earlier about how we're all going to have that moment where we're like, how am I here? How did I get here? Sort of thing. And that happened to me after my first year junior. So this was my 4th year of goalie. I was a senior in high school. Started playing goalie my freshman year, played house hockey my freshman year, then played 2 years of brutal high school where my team won, I think, a total of 5 games in 2 years. Like, we were brutal, but I played every game. So that was cool. Or the second year I played every game. And then my senior year, I go on and I play in the NA3. I was supposed to be like a 3rd string goalie, and coming into camp, both guys who were supposed to start the year with me quit, or like one quit and one, actually the other one was Connor Hellebuck. They were expecting Connor Hellebuck to come play for Metro because it was in his hometown, and his older brother was playing on my team, Chris Hellebuck. And it was like 10 minutes from their house, the rink that we skated at, and they weren't sure if he was going to make Odessa. So he was actually at camp. We talked to him at camp, great kid. And then, the following week he had Odessa's camp. Well, turns out he makes Odessa, ends up being goalie of the year in the NA, commits to UMass Lowell, goes to UMass Lowell the following year, plays 2 years there as the stud in like a finals for the SYWBAHP, and then gets drafted in the NHL. And now I think he's like the most winningest NHL or US born goaltender ever. Something like that. Not ever, or a single season, I think, is the record he holds, maybe. But that was like that was a whole nother side story. But I was supposed to be a 3rd string, and then now I have no goalie partners. I'm the starter. I'm like, holy moly, like, I don't even know where I'm playing or what I'm doing, and I'm like the starter of some team in some league. And ended up playing 31 games, had a really good year. It was really fun. And at the end of that year, I get a call from Dubuque in the USHL, and they're like, yeah, like, we want you to come up. Our goalie got hurt, so we need a guy for like a week, 2 weeks maybe. I was like, okay, sweet. So here I am. I've been a goalie for 4 years now, and I'm backing up, practicing in the USHL. I'm like, and by this point, I've played a year junior, so now I kind of have an idea of what it is. And so I'm there, and I'm just like, all these kids are committed D1. Like, this is wild. And here I am, just some new goalie. I'm still like, I'm just in awe of like pads and like all this stuff, like just looking at all these goalies and stuff. Like, I was just so clueless. And my goalie partner was Matt Morris, who won the MVP of the Clark Cup the year before and went on to play at Maine. But the coach, who was Jim Montgomery at the time, who was in Dallas, and now he's jobless, I think, right now.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, but he was the head coach there, and Joe Coombs, who now is in the NA somewhere else. But he comes in after I was backing up 2 games, and I think it was just 1 game. He comes in after the second. He's like, hey, yeah, like, we're gonna tell Maddie to fake an injury, and you're gonna go in. Because I was the e-bug, so the only way I could play was if my goalie partner got hurt. So they had this like MVP goalie fake an injury so I could go play a 3rd period against Chicago Steel, and my mom was there with me. I'm in Dubuque, Iowa. Never been to Iowa, and here I am, just like, I'm in the middle of a game, a USHL game, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I'm literally like looking around. I'm like, where's my mom? There's a lot of people in here. Like, first time playing in like a big bowl arena, like lots of people. I'm like, dude, you're going D1. That was what I said to myself in my head. I was like, 1, this is crazy. 2, you're going D1. Like, you're already here and you've been goalie 4 times, like for 4 years. Like, you're going somewhere. But not to get cocky, I didn't go D1. D3 is a great route as well. And it just kind of goes to show, like, things get crazy sometimes. I played an okay game, but I think I went on 2 side stories there. The real story, I go to camp now. I go to their main camp the following year. I'm in the All-Star game. I'm having a really good camp. First 2 shots on goal. Both goal. Like first period, I got to start. My first shot, goal. My team goes down. First shot on their goal, goal. Comes down on me. Second shot, goal. I'm like, oh no. And then they go down on the other guy, second shot, goal. And I'm like, phew. I was like, okay, all I got to do is make this one save, and I'm better than this other kid. Like we're both over 2. And then I ended up going on I played the last half of the game and didn't give up another goal. I think the other kid gave up like 3 or 4 more. But that just is kind of one of those instances, like Thack said, like sometimes things aren't going to go your way, but that doesn't mean, I had 1 minute to maybe a minute 30 that it didn't go my way. That doesn't mean the whole 50, 40 minutes in the game that you're playing isn't going to go your way. Right. So, you just got to find a way to laugh about it. Like in that moment, me being able to be like, damn, we both suck right now. I just got to make this next save and I'm better than this guy. Like was my way of kind of fighting through like the whole, like, don't pucker up sort of thing. That was my way of fighting through that, but I'll end it there. Palms, if you want to close us out. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing after that, DK. It was just that's a good example of, you never know when you're going to get your shot or your opportunity, right? So why not be prepared at all times, So
100%.
And you guys are all young age, so why not start preparing now? Start doing doing the mobility, doing the workouts, using what you guys have to your abilities, and you guys will be when you get that shot, you'll be prepared. So it's been great. Thanks for having me on. I mean, it's been great to provide my input and listen to what everybody's got to say. It's been great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, guys. I apologize. We went a little long for other questions. If you guys do have any questions, throw them in the chat now, or you can message either me or DK on Instagram. Throw your questions in there. Send us a message. We'll make sure we get them answered. We just got a little bit reminiscent on the story times, but that's okay.
Do you have a time limit on that thing?
With this many, we got 6 minutes left. We can get a couple in, actually.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, throw them in now. I answered
in the chat box.
Questions that I had. A question that I was submitted while we're waiting for you guys to ask some questions was, what are my 6 most exciting goals that I have for myself? Guys, please, if you have any questions, throw them in the group right now, and we'll get to them, and then I'll just shut up. But again, I just thought that was cool that – I had goal, like he asked me this question and I already had goals in mind. So, for me, I want to get 2,000 followers. Like, I think that'd be cool for my business. And then continue growing from there. Get 15 plus clients in my programs and personal training, stuff like that. Have the best off season of my career, which I feel I'm doing that right now. And entering my season feeling the best. And I think I'm well on my way to that. And then what was the other one? Oh, another one I have is just my meditation practice. I want to strengthen that. So, but yeah, guys, if you have any questions, please throw them in the group. If not, we will, if you don't want to throw them in the group, just DM us. Please let us know what you guys thought of the show tonight, and we'll let you guys get going. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Appreciate you guys. See you guys next week.
Dax and Palms, if you guys want to, I guess it's over, right? We got 6 minutes, but let's get a call going.